This is VOA News. Has released an American Marine veteran as part of a prisoner exchange with the United States, the AP's Ed Donahue reports.
Trevor Reed had been in prison for nearly 3 years in Russia. President Biden met last month with Reed's parents, Paula and Joey.
We've been saying for over a year, if we could just speak to the president, that we felt like we could make this thing happen, and that's exactly what happened.
In a statement, President Biden said the negotiations that brought Reed home required difficult decisions that he does not take lightly. Joey Reed tells the AP, based on video he has seen, he's worried about his son's health.
Hopefully we got him out. The president got him out of there in time before he has any, lasting, lifelong health issues because of it, but we'll see.
In exchange, the U.S. returned Konstantin Yoroshenko, a Russian pilot who's been serving a 20-year federal prison sentence in Connecticut for conspiracy to smuggle cocaine into the U.S. I'm Ed Donahue.
Ukraine said Europe should stop depending on Russia for trade after Moscow halted gas supplies to Bulgaria and Poland for not paying in rubles as the shutoff exposed the continent's weakness and divisions on Wednesday. The decision, denounced by European leaders as blackmail, comes as Russia's own economy wilts under sanctions, and Western countries are sending more arms to Kiev despite warnings from the Kremlin to back off. Gazprom, Russia's gas export monopoly, suspended gas supplies, quote, due to an absence of payments in rubles, as stipulated in a decree from Russian President Vladimir Putin that aims to soften the impact of the sanctions. While the president of the European Commission said it was, quote, yet another attempt by Russia to use gas as an instrument of blackmail. This is VOA News. Mali's military government has accused France of spying after the French military released drone video of what it said were Russian mercenaries staging a mass grave near a military base the French handed back to Mali. Annie Reisenberg reports from Bamako.
Mali's military government on Tuesday night accused France of spying and deliberately violating its airspace in the latest tension between the junta and the former colonial power. Speaking on ORTM state TV, military spokesman Colonel Abdoulaye Maiga said France violated the government's order to get permission for all flights over Mali. In the video posted on the station's Facebook page, Colonel Maiga said there were 50 cases of deliberate violation of Malian airspace by foreign aircraft, mainly French forces.
Les vols d'avions de renseignement et de drones évoluant à haute altitude.
He says these include intelligence-gathering flights and drones flying at high altitude to engage in activities considered spying, intimidation, and subversion. Last week, France released drone footage of what it said were Russian mercenaries burying bodies near the base to stage a mass grave to be blamed on French troops. Mali's army on Friday said it found the mass grave on their arrival at the base, so its forces could not be blamed for it. Colonel Maigel's statement on state TV did not mention any Russian mercenaries, but claimed that France released the drone footage to tarnish the image of Mali's army. Earlier Tuesday, Mali's military said it would investigate the mass grave. The Malian and Russian governments have denied having any deal with mercenaries, with Mali citing only official Russian military trainers who are helping in the fight against Islamist militants in the region. Annie Reisenberg for VOA News, Bamako, Mali.
Nigeria's Senate on Wednesday passed a bill imposing jail terms of at least 15 years for paying a ransom to free someone who has been kidnapped, and made abduction punishable by death in cases where victims die. Armed gangs operating mostly in northeastern and north-central states of Nigeria have for more than a decade spread terror through kidnappings for ransom targeting students, villagers, and motorists on highways. The chairman of the Senate's Judiciary told lawmakers that making ransom payment punishable with jail would, quote, discourage the rising spate of kidnapping and abduction for ransom in Nigeria, which is fast spreading across the country. Recapping our top story, Russia has released an American Marine veteran as part of a prisoner exchange with the United States, as Ukraine said Europe should stop depending on Russia for trade after Moscow halted gas supplies to Bulgaria and Poland for not paying in rubles, as the shutoff exposed the continent's divisions on Wednesday. Follow us on the VOA mobile app. Reporting by remote, I'm Joe Ramsey, VOA News.
This is VOA News via remote. I'm Marissa Melton. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed a military lend-lease bill to speed aid to Ukraine. AP correspondent Mike Grassi reports.
R10, the bill is passed.
The House has passed legislation that would streamline a military lend-lease program for Ukraine and other Eastern European countries. The bill is an update of World War II-era legislation signed into law by President Franklin D. Roosevelt to help allies fight Nazi Germany. The bipartisan bill was months in the making, first introduced in January, at the time part of the U.S. effort to deter and warn off Russian aggression toward Ukraine. Earlier Thursday, the Biden administration announced it will seek another $30 billion from Congress in military and humanitarian aid for Ukraine, on top of the nearly $14 billion Congress approved last month. Mike Grassi, Washington.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres pledged that the world body would not give up on ending Russia's war in Ukraine and would scale up support to the Ukrainian people. He made those comments during a visit Thursday to Kyiv. During a joint press conference with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Guterres said this war must end and peace must be established in line with the Charter of the United Nations and international law. The two leaders met for 90 minutes Thursday at Zelensky's office in the capital. During his comments, Guterres also said, "I want the Ukrainian people to know that the world sees you, hears you, and is in awe of your resilience and resolve." Zelensky said he believes the UN is making Ukraine a priority. He also said Ukraine is defending the principles of the UN Charter. He expressed his thanks to Guterres for what he called a clear, straightforward position. From Washington, this is VOA News. Explosions ripped through two separate passenger vehicles in northern Afghanistan on Thursday, killing at least 9 people and injuring 13 others. The bombings took place within minutes of each other in different parts of Mazar-e-Sharif, the capital of Balkh province. This according to Mohammed Asif Waziri, a provincial police spokesman. The terrorist group Islamic State said on its Telegram channel that it was responsible for the bombing. It's the latest in a series of bombings to rattle Afghanistan this month, killing dozens of people and injuring scores of others. Last week, a bomb exploded at a Shiite Muslim mosque in Mazar-e-Sharif, killing 12 worshippers and wounding around 90 others. A day later, a bomb exploded inside a packed mosque in northeastern Kunduz province during Friday prayers, killing 33 people and injuring nearly 50 others. Criminal violence in Haiti has worsened this week as fighting among gangs in part of the capital chased thousands from their homes and killed at least 20 people, including children. Haiti's Civil Protection Agency says the fighting began Sunday in 4 neighborhoods in Port-au-Prince, north of the international airport. At least a dozen homes were burned down, and many of those who fled initially took shelter in the yard of a local mayor's office. The eruption comes amid a spike in violence and kidnappings as gangs grow more powerful and seek to control more territory amid the power vacuum following the July 7th assassination of President Jovenel Moïse last year. French radio and television outlets RFI and France 24 say the ruling junta in Mali has definitively banned them from the country after they allege that Mali's army carried out human rights abuses working in conjunction with Russia-linked paramilitary groups. The parent company of the two outlets said it had received notification from Mali's communication authority. It said in a statement that it strongly contests the decision to suspend those services, calling the move unfounded and arbitrary. Mali's junta has also accused Human Rights Watch and Michelle Bachelet, the UN human rights chief, of making false allegations against the government. The junta said there had been false accusations in a report in mid-March in which RFI aired comments from alleged victims of abuse by the army and the Russian private security group Wagner. The U.S. economy unexpectedly shrank 1.4% in the first 3 months of 2022 compared to a year ago, according to the U.S. government. This raises fears that the world's largest economy could be facing a recession. And recapping our top story this hour, the U.S. House of Representatives has passed a military lend-lease bill to speed aid to Ukraine. Marissa Melton, VOA News. This is VOA News. Via remote, I'm Marissa Melton. The White House is signaling that a decision by Indonesia to invite Ukraine to the November G20 summit in Bali is not enough to ensure the attendance of U.S. President Joe Biden, unless Russian President Vladimir Putin is excluded from the gathering. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told reporters Friday, "We've conveyed our view that we don't think they, meaning Russia, should be a part of it." Earlier Friday, Indonesian President Joko Widodo announced that he had invited Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the Economic Forum summit. Widodo also said he'd spoken to Putin on Thursday and that the Russian president informed him that he would be attending the summit. Biden, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, among others, have raised concerns about Putin's participation in the summit and signaled that they will not attend if Putin is there. A 22-year-old former Marine has been killed alongside Ukrainian forces in the war with Russia. It's the first known death of an American citizen fighting in Ukraine, AP's Ed Donahue reports.
Willie Joseph Cancel worked as a volunteer firefighter in Walden, New York, a small community.
It impacts everyone, whether you knew them well or not.
George Brown is a firefighter who worked with Cancel.
A lot of kids at his age, they don't understand what they want to do in life, and he seemed to figure it out at a young age, and he followed that path.
Cancel was working for a military contracting company that sent him to Ukraine.
Dedication to community service and national defense is definitely something to look up to as a role model for anyone. Willie was no exception in following that path, and the heart breaks for his family.
Cancel's father says his son decided to go to Ukraine to defend innocent people. I'm Ed Donahue.
This is VOA News. Russia made what appeared to be a sudden reversal to avoid a debt default on Friday as it made a number of already overdue international debt payments in dollars, despite previously vowing they would only be paid in rubles. Russia's finance ministry said it had managed to pay nearly $565 million on a 2022 euro bond and $84.4 million on a 2042 bond in dollars, currency specified on the bonds. Whether the money would make it clear to the United States and other Western countries that sanctioned Russia was still not clear. Russia has not had a default of any kind since a financial crash in 1998 and has not seen a major international default since the early 20th century. Wall Street stocks finished their session sharply lower on Friday following disappointing results from Amazon, while their markets grappled with worries over inflation and higher interest rates. The broad-based S&P 500 finished down 3.6%. Dow Jones Industrial Average shed 2.8%, and the NASDAQ Composite Index tumbled 4.2%. Amazon share prices fell 11% Friday after the massive online retailer posted its first quarterly loss in 7 years. The value of Amazon stock has dropped 23.2% this year. A report has been released on a Massachusetts veterans home that was impacted by COVID. AP correspondent Mike Gracia has that story.
The Massachusetts Inspector General's office has issued a scathing report that is highly critical of the leader of a veterans care center where 76 veterans died after contracting COVID-19 in the spring of 2020. The report says Bennett Walsh, the former superintendent of Holyoke Soldiers Home, lacked the leadership skills and the temperament to run such a facility when he was hired in 2016. The 91-page report was the result of an investigation that started in 2019 in response to pre-pandemic complaints about Walsh. Walsh resigned in October 2020 as he faced criminal charges for his handling of the COVID outbreak at the facility. Those charges were dismissed last year. I'm Mike Gracia.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump's lawyers have provided a New York judge with an affidavit in which the former president claims he didn't turn over subpoenaed documents to the state attorney general's office because he doesn't have them. But the Manhattan judge on Friday rejected pleas to lift the sanctions he imposed earlier in the week. Trump is appealing a contempt ruling and a fine of $10,000 per day. And once again, our top story, the White House is signaling that a decision by Indonesia to invite Ukraine to the G20 summit is not enough to ensure the attendance of U.S.